Hi guys, welcome to Classic Guitar Rock. I'm gonna do a video that's a little different than normal, and this is in response to several emails that I've gotten asking about this. And what we're going to talk about today is starting an online radio station and some tips to get you off to a good start. Um, Most of these are things that I've learned kind of by trial and error. Just a little background. I actually worked in broadcast radio for about 10 years. I started in 1986 and did it until about 1996. So worked in actual at a real live radio station. I don't know if I've mentioned this on this channel before, but about 4 or 5 years ago, I started to do voiceovers. And uh, really, what led to that is I did voiceovers when I was in the radio business. Well, it's a completely different world now than it was in 1986 or 1996, even in terms of the technology. So I put my shingle up on freelancer sites and started doing voiceovers, and I still do voiceovers. Moved into podcasting in about 2020. So I've been doing a podcast now for 4 or 5 years. And here back in the spring, I started a radio station under the Classic Guitar Rock banner, right? You've heard me talk about it on the updates, Classic Guitar Rock Radio. I will put a link in the description so you can actually go and hear what an online radio station sounds like. But I've gotten a number of emails from folks asking me, how do you get started? What do you have to do? Is it hard? Is it expensive? All of that. So let's talk about that today. I just have a list of a few things that I want to bring up. The first thing, is it hard? No, it's not hard. It's not hard at all. And if it's something that you enjoy, maybe you've worked in radio or have always wanted to work in radio, you could absolutely do it. How much does it cost? Well, depends on what you're trying to get out of it. There's probably going to be an investment in equipment. Um, However, there are some online radio stations where it's just automated music. It's kind of like a jukebox. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you could have a radio station without having a microphone. I mean, if you literally just want to play music. Um, but to make it more like a real radio station, you need to be able to talk and have a mic. So there would be an investment there for a microphone. I have a real mic here. This is a EV RE27, which is an actual broadcasting mic. They're $500 or $600. You don't have to jump out and buy one of those, right? I need it for voiceovers and stuff. But just a USB mic would probably get you started. Some type of software like Audacity, which is free download. That would probably cover your bases. And then you could also do podcasts with that equipment. That's about all you need, right? And that's a whole nother topic, podcasting. But in terms of equipment, you need a microphone. Um, if you're going to be playing music, you need to have music. And let me, while I'm talking about this, let me talk about this really quick because this is very important. If you're going to have a radio station that plays music, you've got to have licensing. Okay. You have to have licensing to play music, unless you're just going to play copyright free music, generic music. Well, no one's going to listen to a radio station like that, right? So if you're going to be a music station, just plan on having a license. You got to pay licensing. And that's the biggest expense, right? Because you have to be, you have to have the licensing to be legal to play music. Now, some people, they risk it, right? They might play music without licensing. Not a good idea. You're breaking the law. And at some point you will get caught. So you need to be licensed. And let me talk about this as I talk about platforms. So there are multiple different platforms that you can use. Radio.co they're based in the UK. They're one. Live 365 is one. And those are the two that I really looked at the most. And let me just tell you about both of them. They're both good companies, right? In fact, I was leaning towards radio.co, and here's why. They had better videos on YouTube. They had way more videos, way more helpful videos. I met with a gentleman who worked for the company, a salesman or a representative for the company, and kind of walk through the presentation. I liked it. It was great. But then I would pay whatever my fee was to use radio.co, and it would probably be about $50 a month, right? 40 to 50 a month. Plus, I'd be on my own for licensing. Then I'd have to find other ways to license, and you could do it a la carte, right? You get a license for BMI, then you get a license for ASCAP, and then you get a license for Sound Exchange. Well, before you know it, you're spending $100 a month or more just on your licensing. And even though I liked radio.co as far as their product, their dashboard, everything you get, I didn't like the fact that they didn't offer it with licensing. So let me tell you about Live 365. So Live 365 has a package, several packages that include licensing. So that monthly fee you pay built into that is your licensing. And there's a number of different packages, right? There's the one I started out with, and you kind of have to grow as your listenership grows. You'll kind of grow out of your package. But the one I started with was $59 a month, which included licensing. Okay. And that licensing is good for North America and UK. So it covers all the licensing fees for that. So not the whole world, but most of where my listeners are covered by the license. Now, here's what's interesting. I get people listening from Berlin, from Australia. I'm not sure how that works. I don't know. Maybe they're listening through an IP address. I don't know how that works, but my licensing does not cover Germany. It doesn't cover Australia, but people are listening from there. So hopefully I don't get a knock on my door from the licensing companies in Germany or Australia. But my recommendation is Live 365, because then your licensing is covered. And at that $59 a month price, you get a certain amount of storage, a certain amount of listening hours, right? So there's limits to that. Now, as you're growing and you get more and more people, when you start out, you'll have 10 people listen a day, and then maybe 20 a day, and then up to 100 a day or whatever. I mean, it's doesn't happen instantly, right? And at some point you'll grow out of that first package, and then the next package up is maybe like $99 a month, right? But then you get more listener hours, you get more storage, so you can store more music on it, and it all grows, that way. But you got to have a platform, and make sure when you're thinking about this, you're factoring in licensing of your music. Now, if you don't play music, if you want to have a talk station or sports talk or whatever, licensing might not be a problem for you. Okay. But most people need to play music, so they need to factor in the licensing. Now, another thing with Live 365 is there are packages with ads and without. So I went with ads, because if you go with ads, it's cheaper, right? Because 4 minutes an hour, they're playing ads. Okay. So how do I do that? I have 2 commercial breaks an hour, right? 2 minutes long that are theirs. They play the commercials. Now, any commercials that I sell, I can play as many commercials as I want. And I don't have any sponsors right now, but I have had sponsors that, I can make a little money, that they're paying me to run commercials. And so I can schedule those in as well. But in a package with ads on Live 365, you are committed to play 4 minutes of commercials per hour of their commercials. Now, you can get a package without ads, and it's about $20 cheaper a month. And then you don't have to play any commercials, or you only play your commercials. So it's kind of up to you. To me, it was worth it to get the $20 discount and run ads. And like I said, I haven't had enough sponsors that it's been an issue. So when I have sponsors, I'm running, 5 or 6 minutes of commercials, which in an hour is not bad versus, just the 4 minutes of their commercials. Now, here's another thing. You do get paid for the commercials that they run. Okay. So, and it's, when I say you get paid, it's not much, right? I mean, it's very little. And I believe they just discount. It's so little that I don't even notice, to be honest. But there is some type of ad share that goes on there that you do get paid a little. So obviously, the more listens you get, the more you would get paid for running their ads. But just factor that in whatever package you get. I'm assuming radio.co has a similar thing. The only reason I went with Live 365, like I said, was they had it all bundled up with the licensing, so I didn't have to mess with the licensing. I really liked it. But Live 365 does not do as good a job with the training videos and all. They just don't. I mean, they're fine. I like them. They're great. And they have some, support videos and stuff. But radio.co seemed a little better than they are, but they didn't offer licensing. So I went with Live 365. And it's cheap, $59 a month package that I started with. Okay, now here's the other thing that's super important that I think people miss the boat on. There's a term broadcasting. We talk about broadcasting, and what does that sound like? Well, broad. You want to send your message out to a big group of people. Broad. You want it to appeal to everyone. Well, to be honest, to be successful with an online radio station or any radio station, is you're really not broadcasting. You're narrowcasting. What do I mean by that? It means you've got to identify your audience, not just your audience, identify your listener. Who is listening to your station, or who will be listening to your station? And I'll give you an example. My radio station, again, you can check out the link so you can hear what my station sounds like in the description. My station is classic guitar rock radio, right? It's targeting the same exact people I target for this channel on YouTube and for my podcast, right? It's dudes like me, pasty white. I say pasty white guys. They're not all white guys, but when I say pasty white, I mean old nerdy guys like me that like classic rock. That's my audience. Now, that doesn't mean that there might not be there might be people that don't fit that description that listen, but the vast majority, when I look at my analytics, are guys from 45 to 60 years old, mostly guys. Okay, about 65% male, 35% female, but the biggest swath, 45 to 60-year-old guys. Okay, that's my target audience. Now, why is it so important to know your target audience? Because everything you do, you need to do with that person in mind. Okay, would a 50-year-old guy like this song? Would a 50-year-old guy like this factoid I'm sharing? Okay, so you can't be all things to all people, right? Think about a radio station that tried to appeal to everyone. It would suck, right? Because they'd be trying to catch teenagers and old people and country music. You can't do it. You got to pick your demo and stick with that demo. Double down on that demo, okay? You'll have much better luck doing that than trying to be all things to all people. So know your audience, craft your message. If you listen to our radio station, we have a lot of sweepers and drops with movie clips from the 70s and 80s a pop culture reference from the 70s and 80s, because that's the audience, right? Um, so let's think about this. If you're going to do a country station, let's say you're going to do classic country, same type of thing. Who's listening to classic country? Tailor your presentation, tailor your sound, tailor all the things you talk about to a person that would be a fan of classic country music, right? If it's sports talk, same thing. What's the typical sports talk listener? Probably kind of like what the typical classic rock listener is, maybe a little younger, right? But my point is, you got to figure out who your target listener is, and then everything you do, target to that listener. Does that make sense? You can't be all things to all people. You can't do it. Okay. You won't be successful doing that. All right. Another thing that's very important, have a website. You got to build a website. Got to build a website. You got to have a website that you can send people to. And also, so if I'm using 365, Live 365, there are links you can share. You can post in all your social media, hey, to listen, click on this link. And that's great. You can make a little QR code and put them on business cards. We'll talk about that in a sec, that people can scan and go directly to it. But an even better way is to just bite the bullet, buy a domain name, have a website. I have a website, classicguitarrock.com. You click on that domain, and that's kind of your portal. Okay. In my case, right there, the first thing they see when they go to my website is there's a button for Classic Guitar Rock Radio. There's a button for Classic Guitar Rock Podcast. So right away, all they need to know is, if they know the name of my empire, right? Classic Guitar Rock, they go to classicguitarrock.com. They click on the radio button, and I'm right there, right? Another thing you can do is set it up on Alexa or Google Home or whatever. Mostly Alexa. That's the one most people have. So they can listen on Alexa, right? It's a little different because you're not over the air, you're internet. So that's an extra step folks have to take to listen. But the other thing that a website does is you can put other stuff there, right? Others cross-promoting or all the various programs you might have on your show. We have a blog where we just have articles about classic albums, all kinds of. The more you have up there, the more likely people are to find you, right? And I don't want to get into SEO and all of that, but that's all important too. If you got a buddy, or if you're good with SEO, optimize that website. That website's super important to have. You got to have it. The next thing, which may be even more important, social media. You got to have social media. You got to have Facebook. You got to have Twitter. You got to have I have YouTube here for this channel. YouTube, I don't know. Maybe that's not as crucial. I think Facebook and X are, Instagram probably too, very crucial, right? And you just need to regularly update all of your social media and make it a fun place for people to go, right? I have almost 70,000 followers on Twitter, and that's more than any of my social media platforms. That sends me the most traffic, right? More people come because of my Twitter than anything. But I make it fun. I post things multiple times a day. 2 or 3 times a day, I'll actually just do a screenshot of what's playing on my radio station, and I post it out there, now playing on CGR radio, right? So it's a multi-pronged approach. Once you get your radio station up, you need to promote the heck out of it on social media. You need to have a website, okay? And you do all of that stuff. The next part is remember good old guerrilla marketing, right? Flyers, banners, business cards, that stuff helps, right? So one thing I did is I printed out here. Well, I don't have one on me. I should have had that. This is an example of one of my old business cards. My current business card has the updated logo, like you see at the corner of the screen here. It says Classic Guitar Rock Radio. It's got a picture of me. And then on the back, it's got a QR code that folks can actually scan right from their phone, takes them right to the radio station. It's on their phone. That's where most people are going to be listening, right? Um, Flyers, put up flyers. So what I do, I always have business cards in my pocket. Anywhere I'm at where there's a bulletin board, I stick a card up, right? And I give them out like candy. Can't hurt, right? Um, 4th of July parade, I'm handing out cards to the radio station, all of that. So these little things can help. They don't cost a lot, but I think it's a good thing to do. Now, I don't want to get too technical on this, but let's just talk about it. Doing online radio, it's hard to broadcast live. There's way more technical hoops you have to jump through than you realize. That was one thing that surprised me, is I thought once I had a station up, if I had a mic and everything, that I could be just like a radio station in the old days. I could play music and talk over the music and blah, blah. You can't really do that. I mean, there's a way you can do it, but it's hard. You need extra equipment. You need all kinds of plugins. It's hard to do an actual live broadcast with music anyways. There's latency involved. Okay. We're talking internet. Okay. It's not over the air. That's instantaneous. So you got latency you're dealing with. So there's issues to actually broadcasting live. So what do? Well, what I do is I try and make it sound as live as possible. I want people to think that I'm actually sitting there broadcasting when I'm really not. So what do? I record lots of liners. I put them into rotation that, you'll hear me 3 or 4 times an hour. You'll hear me talking like I'm a live DJ or something. But they aren't live. They're pre-recorded. And they just are added in the platform. You'll learn all this as you start using a platform. You program how you want your hours to play. You upload all your music, and then you're basically have it all set up that the clock wheels just play however you set up your hours to be, right? You might say at the top of each hour, I want to play a liner of me talking. Then I want to play a song. You categorize your songs. For me, I have 3 different 80s categories, 3 different 70s categories, and I put all my 60s songs in one category. And so then I just make this little clock for each hour. It's about an hour long, that tells the platform what to play at any given time. And about 4 times an hour, they hear me talking, right? 4 times an hour, they hear a little sweeper playing. And then the rest of the time it's music or commercials, right? And so it's all programmed in, but I try and make it sound like it's live. Now there's some challenges with all that, but you can figure it out, right? So for instance, I'm not talking at the beginning of song, so I can't really talk about the specific song that's playing. There's adjustments you got to. Now there's ways to do that, but it's hard to do it with the Live 365 platform. You got to get add-on software where there's one, for instance, it's called Radio DJ, which is really cool, but it's a whole nother level. You can use that, and that's awesome, but you don't have to use it. I'm not using it, right? So there's a learning curve, but it's not tough. Not much of a learning curve. I mean, within a day or two, like for instance, with Live 365, you can have a free 7-day trial. And what I would recommend is do it free for 7 days. Try it out. And by the end of that 7 days, you'll know how to do it. You know how it works, right? But keep it fresh. So what I need to do, and I get lazy about this, guys, is I set myself a goal to upload 3 new liners every day. I'm terrible at it. I haven't done it for probably 5 days. At the beginning I did, but upload 3 new liners every day. And then I'm taking them out too. So what I don't want to happen is someone come and listen for an hour, and then the next day when they listen, they hear me say the exact same thing, right? And I'm sure that happens occasionally. But if I'm always freshening up my content, my liners are me talking, right? If I'm always keeping those fresh, and then later I can come back and bring old ones back in and just mix it up. But I want to have it a fresh rotation of my liners. So it hopefully they don't hear me repeating myself, right? But keep it fresh. And then the last point I have is just have fun with it. Make it fun. That's why I'm doing it. It's for fun. I'm not making any money. Now, the months when I have a sponsor, I mean, it basically covers the $59. Or I'll make a little more than that, right? But I'm not doing it to get rich. However, I think if a person did it right and really focused on it, they could make money from an online radio station. There are online radio stations that do make good money. So it's definitely possible if you want to do it. But just make it fun. Make it fun, and then people will keep coming back. Simple as that. So hopefully that helped. If you have any questions about this, go down to the chat. You can always email me, classicguitarrock@mail.com. And as I mentioned, I've got the links to my actual online radio station in the description. You can go check that out, and then you'll kind of get a feel. Listen for the liners when you hear me talking, excuse me, versus the sweepers. By the way, I'm giving away all my secrets. By the way, another cool thing is I use a website called AI Jingle Maker. So I got these sweepers with this British guy talking. We call him Nigel. It's AI, guys. That's all it is. This website, it's a buck a jingle. You can make your own. Technically, he calls them jingles. They're not jingles. Jingles are songs. These aren't really jingles. They're what I call sweepers, right? It's the effect. Classic guitar rock radio. That's a sweeper. Okay. But it's a buck a sweeper. And that's pretty cool. And they sound pretty professional. They're a buck a piece, right? So again, I freshen those up and make new ones. I made some for Halloween that only ran for like a week. Next Halloween, I'll bring them out and do it again. I'll do the same thing for Christmas. So you can make them seasonal and all of that. And that goes for your liners too. If you're talking about the fall or the summer or whatever, you always rotate those out. So you're not talking about the summertime in the middle of November, right? Just some things you'll learn as you start doing this. But it's a lot of fun. In fact, I have plans to start a second station, which will be more of a community-focused, local-based, that I actually think I'll have a better potential to sell some advertising. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully this answered some questions. Again, shoot me an email if you have questions. Put your questions in the comments below. But thanks for watching. We'll see you. Take care.